What is going on, guys? Liretto here, and welcome back to the channel. Now, apologies for it being about 2 weeks since my last upload. That is because I actually run 2 gaming channels as well. But obviously, in the last video, I did talk about leaving some hot takes in the comment section. So for today's video, we're just going to be going over the hot takes that you guys did leave, as well as a few others that I did find online, basically discussing those and seeing what I do think about those. And lastly, before we officially do get into this video, I want to give a huge shout out to you guys once again for all of the support on the first 2 videos. As a kid, being an NBA analyst is always something that I really wanted to strive for. It always felt a little bit out of reach, which is why I started the gaming channels. But seeing the support on the first 2 videos, man, is really making my dreams seem like they could be a reality. And another thing that's super cool is I actually do live alone in my own apartment. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I don't know why I'm sounding like a realtor right there, but it's a 2-bedroom. And the second bedroom is completely vacant. Now, the reason that's super cool is one of my goals for this channel is to turn that second vacant room into a recording studio where we could have the camera, the backdrop. And here's where I want it to be a little interactive. I want you guys to comment down below on this video some NBA player jerseys that I could possibly have framed in the background. So it could be like Allen Iverson, Kobe Bryant. I am a Houston Rockets fan. Kobe's one of my favorite players. Tracy McGrady, James Harden, Trey Young somehow. But yeah, definitely leave a comment down below. Some players, even if it's like a Moses Malone, if somehow like 5 people commented that, we're going to have big Moses Malone in the background. But enough talking, let's get into the hot takes that you guys left off and see what I think. So with the first hot take from Living Proof, we have the Kings will win 50 plus games next season. He said people don't realize how talented of a defender Keon Ellis is, which brought them the 4th ranked defense in the league post All-Star break. Replacing Barnes with DeRozan is going to be a huge talent upgrade at the most obvious weak link in the Kings starting 5. So first opinions with this hot take, I don't even think it's too much of a hot take. The Sacramento Kings were able to win 46 games last year, and picking up DeMar DeRozan, like he said, although some people do question the fit, I think he's a bona fide scorer, he's a bona fide bucket, he's a top 30 scorer of all time, and to only give up Harrison Barnes, Chris Duarte, and some picks, I think it's a win-win for the Kings. And honestly, I've seen a lot of people predict them to finish top 5, which, I do live closest to Sacramento of all the NBA teams. So, I am surrounded by a lot of Sacramento Kings fans. But in my opinion, I could definitely see Kings being a higher seed, to be honest. So I think the main question with the Sacramento Kings is how will the others besides DeMar DeRozan and Sabonis shoot the 3 ball? Obviously, De'Aaron Fox, he's hit or miss, but he has had some hot stretches in the recent times. And, Kevin Huerter, hopefully he can shoot a little bit better. They actually ranked 16th in the NBA last year with a 36.6% average 3-point rating, which is about league average. So picking up a player like DeMar DeRozan, I think is definitely going to boost that team up to 50 wins. And I could definitely see it. So here's a random thing that I'm going to be doing with these hot takes, but I'm actually going to be giving a percentage on them. And, for this one, I'm going to give it a crazy high 78% chance of happening. So the next hot take, and this is definitely a hot take, from Whirly Squirrely 3368, he says, the Rockets are going to be top 4. Now, straight away, without looking at any statistics, obviously we were 42-42 last year. And, to make that push would be absolutely crazy. Obviously I'm definitely rooting for it, but I just can't see it, man. The West is so stacked this year, and although we did finish with a 500 record last year, and picking up a nice shooter in Reed Shepherd definitely unlocks the depth to have we honestly do have a great starting 10, which is kind of crazy. I think for me personally, as a Rockets fan, I think the goal of this season is to really find out who our core players are that we are going to be building around. Obviously with Jalen Green, Alperen Şengün, Tari Eason, you have Cam Whitmore, Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith Jr., Reed Shepherd. We have so much young talent that I think the goal of this season is really just to figure out what our core pieces are and then figure out where we can build in the future. Now, my percentage on this, a 15% chance of happening. Now, 15% is actually pretty decent considering how stacked the West is, but when you really look at it, a lot of these teams, people kind of have all over the place, which shows the versatile opinions in the Western standings. Some people predict the Mavs top 3, some people think Minnesota is like a guaranteed number 1, some people have the Nuggets falling to 5, Nuggets at 1. So I think, there's a lot of teams that definitely could maybe not do as well as people predict. And who knows, maybe the Houston Rockets can just capitalize on a few more of those easy wins Now, do I think we're a top team, like better than the Minnesota Timberwolves or anything like that? Absolutely not. But the regular season is always a little random. Sometimes things just happen, the regular season is always a little all over the place, and I'll give it a 15% chance. Now for the third hot take, it involves the Sacramento Kings once again. Zeal FC actually says the Sacramento Kings will finish a top 3 seed once again. Now the first thing that we are doing is taking a look at the last season standings, and to be a top 3 seed in the West last season, you would have had to have 56 wins and finish with a record of 56-26. That's tough, man. I could see it though, and that is the craziest thing. Of course, this is all prediction based, and just taking a look at the roster again, if the 3-point shot is falling for this team, their offense might get back to best in the league standards with the Celtics. But do I think they will finish a top 3 seed? In order to do that, taking a look at the teams in the Western Conference, they would have to finish above 3 of these 5 teams: Denver, Minnesota, OKC, Dallas. Shoot, you could even throw in the Pelicans with adding DeJounte Murray. So the funny thing is right there is I threw in the Pelicans, and that actually made me kind of think, besides those 4 teams I mentioned, there is potential. So you know what? I'm going to give it a 30% chance. Nothing too crazy, but I do think it's definitely possible. So here's a funny take right here from Martin Bamudu. He says hot take: Clippers are going to make the playoffs. So of course, this is a pretty simple hot take, but here's how I'm going to look at it. So with the Clippers losing Paul George, of course their team did get worse, but of course, only one person can technically shoot the basketball at a time. So I'm just going to go off the fact that they still have Kawhi Leonard, they still have James Harden, and then they did pick up players like Dennis Jones Jr. who can not fill what Paul George did, but definitely play defense similar to how Paul George did. And then when it comes to the offense, of course, the focus of the defense is definitely going to be a little bit more targeted on players like Kawhi or James Harden. But I still think, somebody like Kawhi is able to get his shot off whenever he wants. So I could definitely see the Clippers kind of maintaining somewhat of a similar offense, and then maybe the defense dropping just a little bit, just with momentum swings and stuff like that. So if we're talking play-in and then actually winning the play-ins and making the playoffs, I'm going to give the Clippers making the playoffs a 55% chance, which is pretty good. So another comment left on the channel, not necessarily a hot take, but it's always cool to reply to your guys' comments, from JustTap7164. He says he doesn't see how Minnesota could be better than Dallas. Now, of course, if you did watch my predictions, I did have Dallas above Minnesota, but I could definitely see a way that Minnesota is better just because they're a defensive team. And of course, I always will trust the defensive consistency of a team over the offensive team. And with Dallas picking up Klay Thompson, it's definitely going to be a huge upgrade. Because even if Klay isn't hitting his shots, there's one thing that's always going to stand true with a shooter of that caliber. Even when he's missing, the defense is still going to be so scared to leave him open. Players like Kyle Korver, Klay Thompson, Stephen Curry, if somehow they're having an off game, or even they have a slump where they can't shoot one season randomly, or their percentages are going down, just based off their history, nobody is ever going to just leave them open. So I still think that adding Klay Thompson is just going to open up Luka's drive way too much, to where I really don't see how Minnesota will be better, but I still think it's possible. I'm not going to say it's not possible, and if it did happen, I wouldn't be crazily shocked, because I think they're right there. In the predictions I had them 3 and 4, so I think they're right there. It's a flip of a coin. If Dallas is hitting their shots, it won't happen. If they're not, then I could definitely see Minnesota being above them. So that was a few of the hot takes, and one of the things I do want to say is I definitely want to get better at kind of talking about basketball. I never really realized how hard it was to truly be an analyst. Of course, it's super easy to talk with your homies or talk with your friends about the games that you guys just watched, what you think is going to happen. But when it comes to actually being an analyst, it's a whole nother level of depth that you have to talk about when it comes to like the win-losses, the plus-minus, the off-season pickups, the trades, the contracts. And, just getting better at that. I'm definitely going to look up some websites so it's easier to find like the percentiles of like how high this defense ranked once so-and-so was traded and stuff like that. So I can really bring you guys an in-depth review. But before we do get out of here, I decided, I'm going to leave you guys 2 hot takes of my own. The first hot take, which isn't a crazy hot take because he's always super highly ranked in the MVP ladder anyways. I have Giannis winning the MVP this season. Now, I think he's been a little bit forgotten with the injuries in the playoffs the past 2 seasons. But, Giannis with Damian Lillard, I still think it has a level that hasn't been reached yet. And I think if Damian Lillard is a little bit more focused on basketball, of course, he had the move, the divorce. If he's just a little bit more focused this season and able to tap back into how he was playing with the Trailblazers, finds his comfort, I think that team is going to be super dangerous. And if they have a similar record to the Boston Celtics, I think Giannis will win the MVP. And then my second hot take. When it comes to hot takes, this is a hot take. Some of these are a little bit chilled out. No, this one is 500 degrees. I'm going to put Atlanta Hawks top 5. The Atlanta Hawks top 5 is crazy. But, like I said, Trae Young is one of my favorite players. And it still hasn't been too long since that last playoff run where they did make the Eastern Conference Finals. And, obviously they lost to DeJounte Murray. Nobody's expecting anything from them. And I always think that's when teams are most dangerous. When there's no expectations, there's no disappointments, which means players are playing freely. They're shooting the ball. There's no, disgrunt. The coach is chilling. There's no expectations. And not to say that there is no expectations with the Atlanta Hawks, but I think, getting rid of an all-star caliber player, getting the first overall pick, in a way, some people kind of think they're going into a rebuild, but I think they could be dangerous. So hopefully you guys did enjoy this video again. It's just going to be the more practice that I do, the better I will get at the commentary. And then of course, once I get the camera with the backdrop, I think it's just going to add another element to this channel. I want to give a huge shout out to you guys once again for, just really pushing these videos and, giving me a lot of momentum and confidence to just keep going with this. Hopefully this video is somewhat entertaining. And yeah, other than that, it's been Liretto. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'm out.